Alright, round one of our triple Lorwyn rough drafts, and we got the fairy half of our deck, which is kind of good. So, Swamp Go, we can Nectar Fairy into Thieving Sprite, take something from our opponent's hand. Oh, our opponent is elfing. Alright, Forest and Nectar Fairy. Pass the turn. Vivid Grove. Opponent passes. No attacks, eh? Alright, Swamp. Thieving Sprite. We get to thieve something out of our opponent's hand. They got to reveal 2 cards. We get to take one of them. Probably not going to be great. Probably 2 lands. Yep. Well, let's take the Swamp. They already have a ton of green mana. And start getting in for 1. Our next 3 Thieving Sprite will hopefully be even better, though. So this can give a fairy or an elf lifelink until end of turn. Not horrible, although paying 1 and tapping to gain 1 life is probably just worse than attacking in most situations. Would be nice if we had a bigger creature to give lifelink to. Jagged Scar Archers. Power and toughness equal. Oh, God. Alright, well, good news is we can kill that right away. That taps to shoot down our flyers, which is really bad. But, luckily, we have Moonglove Extract. And we can just immediately shoot down Jagged Scar Archers before it can start killing our creatures. Green mana for our Huntmaster would be nice. Get in for 2. Well, Crisis averted with that Jagged Scar. That would go a long way towards beating us on its own. So, green mana, Dread would be sweet. We have so much mana. Opponent's going to get in for 1. Finally decide to start attacking with their Eulogist. Oh. That Thieving Sprite actually mana screwed our opponent. I think. Well, let's attack with both. And then play Huntmaster. Well, maybe Thieving Sprite did more than we thought. Our opponent revealed 2 lands and then started missing land drops. So maybe they got too greedy by not revealing a spell there. If they really have nothing to do with 3 mana. We are going to take it. We don't want that Death Touch, 3 mana Death Touch spell. We don't really want that to kill our Huntmaster. Opponent passes. Alright, well, let's play this pre-combat just in case anything goes wrong. Moonglove Winnower gets us an elf token. And then we're just going to swing with the crew. Opponent's down to 10, and we're actually kind of just crushing because we got that land out of our opponent's hand. Treefolk Harbinger, alright. Alright. That's not too scary. So they get to get a Treefolk, or, well, I guess they get a Forest, which kind of helps their mana situation, but doesn't really help it until next turn. Alright, what do we have now? Another Swamp. Well, what is our opponent doing? Oh, the Forest goes on top of their library. Let's just swing with the crew. Opponent's going to block, sack to gain some life. Oh. Alright, they're going to use a pump spell to trade. I guess we'll keep Lingify. Swamp Go. Well, our opponent has many more cards than us, but we're pretty far ahead on board. And we have Lingify, so if we can keep getting in with our flyers, we win the game in pretty short order. Opponent goes with Woodland Guidance to get back their pump spell? On second thought, let's put this to the bottom. I just want another threat. Not a land, please. Alright, land. Swing with everything. If our opponent doesn't block, then they're dead to our flyers? Land go. Well, in this case, it seems like Mana Flood is beating Mana Screw. Opponent reveals a Changeling Titan, gets an untapped Gilt-Leaf Palace. But they're down to 2. They need something pretty good to stay alive here. I guess if they have a Wrath, that would be bad. Woodland Guidance to get back their Elvish Eulogist. Alright, let's put Leaf Gilder to the bottom. Not that impactful. Replays it. Our opponent is trying hard to stay alive. How much life do they gain? Alright, let's just Pepper Smoke. Make our opponent sack. They go up to 4. We swing with everything. They have to block our Winnower to stay alive. They drop to 1, and now they essentially have to deal with everything. They have 6 mana, so they basically need some sort of Wrath effect. That uncommon one that we got, though, doesn't do it. It's only -0, -2. And, alright, well, Fairy, Kithkin, Elves, dot deck, getting there. Alright, let's run it back. Well, we're 1 game away from breaking even thanks to that Thorn. This hand can literally cast nothing. I think we gotta ship this. Alright, this hand can cast things. So, I guess that means we keep it. I'm going to put Lingify to the bottom for now. Vivid Grove for our opponent. Forest Goo. Elvish Hand Servant. Whenever a player casts a giant, they get a +1/+1 counter. And they heavily are featuring the Vivid lands. Winnower's not bad. Well, let's go Kithkin Dagger Dare. Opponent gets in a 4/1. Ooh, that's a dread. Alright, let's just go with Gilt-Leaf Seer and get in for 1. Thieving Sprite gets better the longer we wait. If we can get their last card, it's probably going to be a good card. Or if we draw more fairies. Opponent passes. Well, let's just Forest and Thieving Sprite. Basically, our opponent has to discard a card of their choosing. And they choose Woodland Guidance. Alright. We'll just pass. They are representing a combat trick, and I don't really want to run into it. Plus, next turn we can start attacking with this, pumping and hitting for 3 in the air. And we're 1 mana away from Dread. We can activate Gilt-Leaf Seer, rearrange the top 2 cards of our library, and try to get Dread to come down on time. So let's Gilt-Leaf Seer. Well, I guess we want the Dagger Dare. So let's land. Let's attack with our flyer. And I don't think we're going to pump here. I think we're going to play Winnower and then activate this again. I would really like to draw lands more than I want to draw a 7-drop we can't cast at the moment. Opponent is apparently flooding, so let's activate our Seer. Alright, draw the Forest. Let's do some attacking. Opponent's going to block. I'm expecting Pump Spell, but then we trade because we have Death Touch, so... There's a Pump Spell. Well, we win the clash, and we actually get to get rid of that thing, which is nice. Trade off. Now we're just going to land and slam our Dread. And our opponent's going to need some serious removal to stay in this game. Can they kill our Dread? Ooh, they have Final Revels, which kills a lot of our stuff, but does not kill Dread. So they still are going to have to deal with Dread eventually. So let's get in there. Play Dagger Dare. Play Moonglove Extract, pass the turn, and we might be able to put our opponent all the way to 1 next turn. So maybe our deck is actually good, somehow. Exile an elf from your graveyard. It gets +3/+3 until end of turn. And they have an elf. An Elvish Branchbender. Alright. Well, let's attack with our Dread. Opponent takes it. We're going to pump it up. Put our opponent to 3. Leaf Gilder. And pass the turn. So I guess our opponent can try to, like, exile 2 elves to pump this up enough to kill Dread. Do they have 2 elves? They only have 1 elf. So, I don't know. They got to get rid of Dread somehow. If they're going to stay alive through this. Woodland Guidance gets back the Pump Spell. We always win the clash. Our opponent is very unlucky. I guess we keep that. I mean, it's fine. So let's go attacking. I think our opponent, they can trade off with 1. They're going to activate that to make a 2/2 forest. And then I think we just shoot the forest and win? Because if they want to play their pump spell, they have to tap out, and then they don't have enough blockers. We just tap this, pump up whatever. Well, they have to block here, but pump up the Leaf Gilder, and we win that way. I guess they need removal spell for Leaf Gilder. If they can use this mana to kill Leaf Gilder, we know 1 card is a pump spell. If their last unknown card is, I don't know, some way of killing Leaf Gilder, then they survive a turn, but they have to chump, and then they are pretty much dead next turn anyway. Alright, there's a pump spell. Root Grapple? What is Root Grapple? Destroy a non-creature permanent. Oh, that card. Alright. So they save their forest, which is fine, but they're just dead. So they kind of saved it for no reason. Opponent blocks. We pump up our Leaf Gilder, and that does it. Alright. Well, we're through to round 2. Fairy Elf Kithkin.deck. Apparently good enough. Sweet. Well, we'll be back with round 2.